Hello students, I'm Dr. Himanshu Kandpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today we are going to study Puritan Age and the movement related to Puritan Age, that is Puritan movement. The period from 1603 to 1660 is labeled as the Puritan Age of English literature. The age gets its name from the Puritan standard that prevailed in England at that time. A Puritan is one who follows Puritan principles and particularly regards pleasure or lavish lifestyle as sinful. Puritanism was the doctrine of School of English Protestants of the 16th and 17th century, whose aim was the purification of the religious practice from anything not specifically authorized by scripture and who enjoyed the strictest purity of conduct. The epithet Puritan was assigned to the followers of Puritanism by their opponents. They were sometimes also referred to as precisionist. Puritan is a name which appears to have originated about 1564. Puritanism was the doctrine or school of English Protestants which strictly advocated religious discipline and favored simplification of the church ceremonies. In other words, it aimed at purification of the religious practice. During Elizabethan age, Calvinist and Catholic elements were blended. They were disciplinaries who had felt the influence of John Calvin of Geneva. The Puritan attack on Elizabeth in 1579 when Thomas Cartwright criticized Anglican Church. Thomas Brown, the father of independence, Greenwood and Barrow supported Puritan cause. And at that time, Queen Elizabeth appointed John Whitgift, the Archbishop of Canterbury, to check this spread of hateful doctrines. So, the seeds of Puritanism can be traced back to the English Reformation. It is noteworthy that all the great literary figures of this age were followers of the doctrine of Puritanism. Therefore, historically, it was an age of conflicts as well as moral and political revolution. James I was anti-Puritan and favored Roman Catholics, and it was in the reign of Charles I that Puritanism emerged as a great national power. After a stormy period of civil war, it triumphed with the triumph of Oliver Cromwell, and during the years of Commonwealth, it was supreme. At that time, the theatres were banned and closed in 1642, and on the pretext that drama was impious and sinful, the Puritans waged a war for righteousness and liberty for people. They took a revolutionary step and removed the corrupt monarchy by beheading Charles I. Commonwealth was established under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell, which shortly ended with the restoration of Stuart monarchy in 1660 with the coronation of Charles II. So, the Puritan age overlaps the Elizabethan age on one side and the Restoration age on the other side, and therefore the literature of this age reflects the tendencies of both the ages. This age is enriched with many prominent literary figures. There are three major schools of poetry that flourished during this time. The Spencerians, drawing inspiration from Edmund Spenser. Such poets include Giles Fletcher, Browne, and Wither. These were the poets who followed Edmund Spenser, and that is why they are called as Spencerians. The Cavalier poets following the footsteps of Ben Jonson. Such poets include Herrick, Robert Herrick, Thomas Carrier, John Suckling, Richard Lovelace, and Andrew Marvell. The Caroline lyricists who came under the influence of Ben Jonson are called as Cavalier poets. They felt proud of calling themselves sons of Ben. They derived from Ben clarity and lucidity of expression, control of emotion, felicity of phrase, and sophistication of tone. These Cavalier group of Caroline from Carolus, that is the Latin of Charles. These Cavalier group of Caroline poets were a name given to supporters of Charles I during Civil War. They were lyrical poets and dealt chiefly with love, beauty, and war. They wrote songs on lighter vein, gay, trivial, and often licentiate. Then, and the metaphysical poets, including John Donne, George Herbert, Richard Crusher, Henry Vaughan, and Thomas Traherne. The metaphysical school of poetry was dominated by John Donne. John Dryden said that Donne too much affect the metaphysics, meaning that he was too much given to intellectual analysis. Dr. Johnson calls the school of Donne as the school of metaphysical poets. The poets of that school had in common two things: learning with a kind of wit and the desire to say something that has never been said before. The work of these men is characterized by the use of language coupled with paradoxes, elaborate conceits, often drawn from the science of the day. The poems written by these poets sometimes take the form of arguments, for the metaphysicals characteristically link intense emotion with intellectual ingenuity. This is about the metaphysical poets. Apart from these, John Milton was a great religious poet and towering literary figure of this age, who produced the first great epic in English, that is Paradise Lost, which was published in 1667, and his other important works include Allegro, Il Penseroso, Comus, Lycidas, Paradise Regained, and Samson Agonistus. The Puritan strain is apparent in the choice of religious subjects in Milton, especially in his later poems. The sense of responsibility and moral exaltation, the fondness for preaching and lecturing. The narrowness outlook is seen in his outbursts against his opponents, and finally regarding inferiority of women. His classical bent is apparent in his choice of classical and semi-classical forms: the epic, the Greek tragedy, the pastoral lament, and the sonnet. So, in literature, Milton occupies an important and central position. He came immediately after Elizabethan era, when the Elizabethan methods were crumbling into chaos. His hand and temper were firm enough to gather into the system the wavering tendencies of poetry and to give them sureness, accuracy, and variety. In this age, regular or pindaric odes were introduced into English by Ben Jonson. Milton popularized the Miltonic Sonnets with the rhyme scheme A B A B, C D C D, E F E F E F G G. The prose of this age is highly decorative, ornate and decorative, modeled after the Elizabethans and the charming essays of Abraham Cowley, written in exceptionally simple and lucid means clear style, leaving a lasting impression on readers. This was an age which produced prose classics like the authorized version of the Bible, that is a collaborative work of 50 writers, Thomas Brown's Religio Medici and Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy and Walton's Complete Angler. This is all about the Puritan Age. Thank you.